today's very auspicious day, Ekadashi Tithi, we have to do more bhajan for the satisfaction of Krishna and fasting, and it is also today we will start as per instruction of Srila Gurudev, we will start Srimad Bhagavad Gita. It is auspicious day to start because also Gita was spoken on Ekadashi, that Mokshada Ekadashi in December. So translation of Srila Bhaktivinod Thakur's and Visvanatha Thakur and Baladev Vidyabhusan, all three commentaries are in one, translated by Srila Bhakti Pradip Tirtha Goswami Maharaj. He is a disciple of Srila Bhaktivinod Thakur and he took sannyas, first sannyasi of Prabhupada, and first to also go out in Western countries to preach. And he felt in London that he has to translate this. By the grace of Prabhupada, he felt that it is important to translate because Bhagavad Gita is preliminary study, all the basic points before one can start Srimad Bhagavatam and Chaitanya Charitamrita, but at the same time it can be also very high by those who have such a vision, like Srila Visvanatha Thakur, Bhaktivinod Thakur. They also spoke some deeper meanings, so that we will see. So this is the introduction. I offer my most humble greetings to thee, O Nityananda, with all thy associates. Being the all-pervading Lord of the universe, thou art the spiritual guide that dwells in the hearts of all. Be thou merciful that I may propitiate the Vaishnava Acharyas by my translation of their annotations in Sanskrit and Bengali of the Gita into English. This is Srila Bhakti Pradip Tirtha Maharaj, and now he is translating the introduction to Srila Bhaktivinod Thakur's Gita. Means the introduction which Bhaktivinod Thakur gave to his own translation of Gita. The Vedas are self-revealed, extensive divine words in which somewhere dharma, elsewhere karma, in other places sankhya or jnana, and somewhere bhakti have been elaborately dealt with. Somewhere in the Vedas is also found the principle of gradation, showing the mutual relationship of the above processes and which particular process under what circumstances can be adopted in place of another. But to study the vast lore and to determine the gradual steps of duties in human life are very difficult for a man of this age, whose life is short and intellect limited. Hence, a succinct, simple, scientific, and definite conclusion regarding Vedic principles has been the crying need of humanity from time immemorial. Some of the intelligentsia till the end of Dwapar Yuga, having failed to get at the real purport of the Vedas, were promulgating their respective tenets such as karma, yoga, Sankhya Gyan, Logoma, Hi, and Monism as the only accredited cult of the Vedas, with the result that those undeveloped and imperfect principles, like the undigested food, were gradually sowing the seeds of chaotic disorder among the people in the field of religion. When this disorder reached its climax, just on the eve of the Kali Yuga, the All-Merciful and the All-Truth, Supreme Lord Shri Krishna, revealed the beautiful Bhagavad Gita to his friend and disciple Arjuna as the quintessence and conclusive truth of all the Vedas and Upanishads, which is regarded as the only means of redemption of the world. Hence, the Bhagavad Gita shines brilliantly as the crest jewel of all the Upanishads and inculcates the principle of pure devotion to the blessed Lord Shri Krishna as the eternal function of all souls and as the ultimate end of all religious principles. Some wrangling pedants maintain that the Gita upholds the theory of impersonal monism and seek to support their untenable arguments on the basis of the commentary of the Gita by Shankaracharya, deputed by God to be the exponent of that theory of illusion. The scriptures in which karma and the jnana have been defined to be the highest end are beneficial for those for whom they are intended in their particular sphere of life. The raison d'être, there's some Latin, some word I don't know, but I can guess. The raison d'être is to create in them a strong adhesion to their respective creeds, which would otherwise prove detrimental to them were it ignored and another accepted in its stead. So the reason why they are being defined as the highest end is to inspire those who are qualified for that path to follow that, so that they should not try to search for something else and then they will lose this for which they are qualified. So for this reason, this is mentioned like this. Like if you are in school and you are qualified for first class. So if you go to that building in school and you go to some fourth class there, then you will lose everything. You will not gain any benefit proper. So they say this is the only class, this is the best class, so that that person will go there. So here also karma and jnana are highest, so as to bring them to that they should follow that. Not that such a device is justifiable, but that such a ruse has been resorted to in many scriptures to attract them. That scripture is of immense good to the people, wherein is mentioned bhakti or devotion guided by duty and knowledge in the incipient stage and consummated by unalloyed devotion, free from desires of elevation and salvation as the ultimate end. Duty means this, Varna, Ashram, Dharma, and Gyan means knowledge. So in the beginning stage, it is little guided by these two principles, but ultimately it has to come to pure devotion. So those scriptures are of immense good to the people. So unalloyed devotion free from desires of elevation, which is karma, and salvation, which is jnana, free of such desire as the ultimate goal, ultimate end, means devotion, pure devotion. The Upanishads, the Brahma Sutras, means Vedanta Sutras, and the Gita are all devotional scriptures. Though in some places importance is given to karma, jnana, yoga, salvation, or impersonal monism, yet nothing but unalloyed devotion to the absolute person Shri Krishna has been pointed out as the ultimate goal of all the principles mentioned in the Gita. The readers of the Gita may be divided into two classes. One superficial and the other profound. The former dabbles with the meaning of the words, while the latter quests after the true spirit or significance of the words. The former, after going through the book from the beginning to the end, comes to the conclusion that the duty prescribed in the Varna Ashram Dharma is eternal. So, Arjuna did his duty by fighting as a Kshatriya after hearing the Gita with rapt attention. Hence, the performance of duty as enjoined in the Varna Ashram Dharma is the ultimate end of the Gita. But the latter, not content with this superficial conclusion, arrives at the definite conclusive truth that either Brahma Gyan or pure devotion to the absolute person Shri Krishna is the final goal of the Gita. Either Brahma Gyan, that impersonal, or devotion to Krishna. Because they are not satisfied with that karma that is non-eternal. They say that as a Kshatriya, Arjuna was in duty bound to fight, but that is not the ultimate end of the Gita. Men do their duty according to their mental aptitude. While doing their duty, they are required to attain knowledge about the truth. Truth with T capital, truth. None can live without action, and knowledge about the truth is not attainable without an active, regulated life. Hence, knowledge about the truth is distantly related to karma and Varna Ashram Dharma, and this relation is inevitable until the jiva is free from the bondage of karma and Varna Ashram Dharma. As a Kshatriya, Arjuna was in duty bound to fight. Hence, his duty of fighting as a Kshatriya leads us to the conclusion that a person who is a Brahmana by nature ought to take to hermitage like Sri Uddhava after hearing the tenets of the Gita. So the underlying principle of the Gita is that a particular duty is incumbent upon a person in a particular order and station of life according to his nature and proclivity to action. While doing his duty, he should search for the ultimate reality as his eternal well-being. Realization of this ultimate reality is not possible when the performance of the ordained duties is ignored or neglected. So Arjuna was Kshatriya, so after hearing Gita, he was fighting. But if same Gita was spoken to Uddhava, he would come to the conclusion that he should go to seclusion and meditate like this, because they are of different nature. In Bhagavatam 11th canto, you have this, Krishna speaking to Uddhava. But here Bhaktivinoda Thakur is saying, that is also important to follow your prescribed duty, because in this world we have to maintain, but that is only as a means or as an assistance to one's realization of eternal welfare. So this should not be neglected. Those karmis, they are thinking this is all in all. But pure devotees and Brahmagyanis, they are not rejecting, but seeing as assistant to that eternal goal. So while doing his duty, he should search for the ultimate reality as his eternal well-being. And this realization is not possible if one ignores these duties, because now we are in such condition. We are not in Goloka. We have material body. We are living in this world. So this should not be neglected, but at the same time not misutilized. It should be utilized properly for the realization of eternal. Now it may be asked, was not Arjuna, being a great Vaishnava, a Brahmana by nature? The answer is this. Truly, he was conscious of his own real self. But when the Supreme Lord Shri Krishna descends on the mundane plane, he also accompanies him as a born Kshatriya. Arjuna comes. His natural aptitude was then that of a Kshatriya, a fact which was always kept in view by the Blessed Lord in imparting the knowledge of the graduated principles of this Upanishad, means Bhagavad Gita, to the world. So he was playing the pastime of being Kshatriya. So Krishna also considered this when giving instruction to Arjuna and actually to us through Arjuna. Arjuna is only playing the pastime of being, like in fact Gurudev said, playing the pastime of being infatuated, and Krishna is teaching him. But this is all lila, to give us teaching. Sincerely pondered over, the condition of a fallen soul is truly deplorable. It is therefore desirable to resort to some means for attaining to a purely blissful state, which is the ultimate goal of all human beings, and that by which this ultimate goal is attained is the means. Some of the makers of Shastras have pointed out Yagya, some Yoga, some Logomahi, some virtuous deed, some asceticism, some austerities, some fight for righteous cause, some prayer for Bhagavan, prayer to Bhagavan, some performance of religious rites, some greeting to the preceptor, some penance, and some gift as the means of getting at the ultimate end, thus giving birth to a multiplicity of means, mostly unscientific in their character. In course of time, they were scientifically reduced to three distinct principles of karma, gyan, and bhakti. I have to see this word, logomahi, or mat. One second. It is not even in this dictionary. I have to see on internet. So many means are there, but they can be in this different logo. Many. An argument about words, something. Dispute about words. Okay, so this is one kind of means for some to attain ultimate. Some study maybe of Shastra, maybe, and trying to understand the meaning. And the fact that the eternal entity of the jiva is transcendental has been well established by the self-revealed knowledge as expounded in the Vedas. The birth in the mother's womb is nothing but a conditioned state of that eternal entity. There is no other reason that can be ascribed to such a conditioned state of an eternal spiritual entity than the inconceivable and irrefragable will of Bhagavan, which is beyond the ken of limited human intellect. How this is possible, eternal and bound, is by the will of Krishna. Later it will be explained in more details how. Hence, there are two classes of jivas, free and bound. A free jiva, again, is of two kinds, eternally free, nitya siddha, and those freed from the bondage of Maya by sadhana or spiritual practice, known as sadhan siddha. Both of them are unconditioned souls and hence beyond the jurisdiction of the scriptural injunctions. They are already in their perfect function, so for them guidance of Shastra is not necessary, because already they are following that. The difference between karma and jnana, visible in the life of a fallen soul, has nothing to do with an unfettered soul. Means liberated soul. That has no any meaning on them. Karma and jnana are the two perverted outward features of the inner principle of divine love, prema, which is the eternal function of all unalloyed souls. This eternal function of divine love of a jiva, when perverted, owing to his aversion to the service of the blessed Lord, assumes in his fallen state the two forms of karma, or desire for elevation, material elevation, and jnana, desire for salvation. And sadhana bhakti, being the third form of that divine love, is the normal function of his unalloyed existence, while the other two, karma and jnana, relate to his body and mind in his abnormal state. Karma or action is indispensable for keeping the body and soul together. Actions that are baneful or prejudicial to the interest of the world are known as bikarma or kukarma. Means wrong activities or sinful activities. Actions that are baneful or prejudicial to the interest of the world are known as bikarma in Shastra. That is not beneficial. Omission or dereliction of duties is known as akarma, that you don't want to do anything. Don't want to do your proper duty, that is akarma. And those that are beneficial to the world at large are known as karma, that is proper action. There are 4 kinds of actions, viz. Physical, mental, social, and supernatural. Every action must have its aim and object. As for instance, taking of food and drink has the nourishment of body as its object, and marriage aims at the procreation of children. But scientifically discriminated, shanti, or eternal bliss, is the ultimate end of these aims and objects. To probe more closely, the attainment of the eternal loving service of the lotus feet of the Blessed Lord in his blissful realm by the jiva, freed from all mundane affinities, has been declared to be the ultimate end of human life. Gurudev said that Shanti, like in Western countries, they understand the word peace like a state when there is no wars in some area or in the world, then that is peace. But Gurudev said this is negative. Actually, Shanti in Sanskrit, Shanti is positive peace. It is transcendental bliss. What we consider peace in this world is only some temporary relief from some undesirable state. Like you are very much burdened on one shoulder and then you put that down and then you are at peace. But that is only not positive happiness. It is only relief of some suffering. But Shanti in scripture means positive bliss, transcendental bliss. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. That. Eating, drinking, sports, exercise, sleep, purity, yagya, vow, etc. have been prescribed in the Shastras as physical actions. In the Ashtanga Yoga, the processes of restraint or yama, regulation, niyama, sitting, asana, equipoise of respiration, pranayama, are physical actions, while the processes of retraction, pratyahara, meditation, dhyana, and retention, dharana, are mental, and deep absorption or trance, samadhi, is supernatural. Social duties such as sacrificial rites, gifts, and socio-religious duties of Varna ashram are enjoined in the Vedas and also in the 20 Dharma Shastras, Manu Sanhita being one of them. These are social duties. Although the scriptures deal with the temporary and trifling results of these actions, they are not slow in pointing out Shanti as the final beatitude. In the Vibhuti Pada, means here in Gita, chapter dealing with superhuman powers of Ashtanga Yoga, although mention is made of some superhuman powers as the ultimate end, still, no, that was not in not of Gita, but in that Yoga Shastra about Vibhuti-pada, chapter dealing with superhuman powers of Ashtanga Yoga. Although mention is made of some superhuman powers as ultimate end, still Shanti has been targeted as the ultimate goal in the Kaivalya Pada, that chapter, the oneness. Every action in the beginning promises sensuous enjoyment as its sequel, but the vanity or bitter effects of the sensuous pleasures have been shown. Shanti, eternal bliss, has been pointed out as the ultimate and highest end. But Kaivalya Shanti, though superior to sensuous enjoyment, is not bliss in the true sense, but a mere absence or negation of suffering. In this Kaivalya Shanti, that is impersonal liberation. You have no mental, physical, any suffering, and you are in peace, but that is not bliss in true sense, because Jiva will get true bliss in Lila of Bhagavan, in the service of Bhagavan. So this was about karma, three kinds of karma: Vikarma, Akarma, and Ashtanga Yoga. Now Bhakti, ultimate end of all actions. Then follows a search for spiritual bliss in the form of Brahma Gyan, when transcendental bliss resulting from the service of the Blessed Lord is focused as the ultimate end of karma and jnana, ignoring all attachments for and sensuous enjoyments of fruitive actions, and denying even Brahmananda, that is bliss of impersonal realization, then karma and jnana turn into bhakti. Hence, bhakti is the ultimate end of all actions. When that end is ignored, the action is non-devotional in character and is known as karma. Karma becomes sadhana bhakti when the faithful service of the Supreme Lord is aimed at. It then loses its sting and becomes a devotional act. So it depends on the target. Sahaj Samadhi, natural Samadhi. A jiva, though fettered, means bound, is essentially a transcendental entity. So, discourse on knowledge is natural to him. There are four kinds of discourses on knowledge: mundane, mental, supernatural, and purely spiritual. Mundane experience or knowledge is derived from the physical senses of hearing, seeing, etc. 2. Subtle or mental experience consists in the mental speculations of thinking, meditating, retention, and various other fanciful creations of the mental world. When the above physical and mental experiences are arrested by the process of deep absorption of the Ashtanga Yoga, or by the process of not this and not that, neti neti, this is not, the rejecting all mundane, of the Jnana Yoga, so the yogis, they are practicing samadhi, but the jnanis, they are practicing this neti neti. So both these processes are arresting physical and mental plane. Then akuta or uniform trance manifests itself, which is directly opposite to the above gross and subtle experiences. Here comes in impersonal Brahmananda of Shankara and Kaivalya Ananda of Patanjali of Yoga, both of which are supernatural in nature. So this one is mundane, mental, and supernatural. 3. Now the fourth one, Sahaja Samadhi, or easy or natural. Sahaja Samadhi, or innate transcendental knowledge, automatically manifests in the unadulterated existence of the jiva. When the direct perception of gross and subtle senses and the opposite perceptions of Kaivalya Ananda, or uniform trance of Ashtanga Yoga, and of Brahmananda of Shankar Jnana Yoga are completely eliminated, like that oneness, this innate transcendental knowledge becomes congenial to the culture of pure devotion. So crossing this impersonal realization, then this natural samadhi starts. This innate transcendental knowledge, absolute knowledge, means pure reality, becomes congenial to the culture of pure devotion, means Sambandha Gyan. And Sambandha Avideya Prayojana, all three, is this pure spiritual, purely spiritual. Purely spiritual means Sambandha Avideya Prayojana. Bhakti, ultimate end of elevation and salvation. A fallen jiva at first acquires knowledge of the different objects of the phenomenal world by means of his cognitive faculty. He acquires a good deal of experience regarding mundane things by means of his physical senses when they come into direct touch with the phenomenal sense objects. Sometimes, after mature thinking on frail sense objects and their changeable nature, he comes to the conclusion that there is a God who is the creator, the proprietor, and the preserver of this world, and offers causal prayer or respect to him out of gratefulness for supplying his needs. Sometimes, knowing the changeability and transitoriness of this world, he resorts to stoical abnegation and imagines himself to be identical with a transcendental God or Brahman. Sometimes, denying the subjective existence of this world, sentient and insentient, he tries to advocate atheism or attains nirvana, self-annihilation, as the final goal. That is Buddhist there after this. They deny the subjective existence of this world, sentient and insentient. He tries to advocate atheism or attains nirvana. Whichever way he may think, the moment he realizes the futility or worthlessness of the above principles or impersonal Brahman, atheism or nirvana, he submits himself unconditionally to the Supreme Being, the Lord of all love, all beauty, all truth, and all harmony, and worships him with firm faith and pure devotion. Hence, pure devotion is the ultimate goal of all intellectual pursuits. Elevation, or the physical and mental amelioration of the world, is the ultimate end of all fruitive actions. Amelioration means improval or increase. These same words, like Gurudev was using, because that specific English was used at that time in India. Amelioration or liberation or emancipation from worldly bondage is the ultimate end of all abstract knowledge. But bhakti, or pure devotion to the absolute person Shri Krishna, is the ultimate end of both elevation and liberation. When knowledge ignores pure devotion as the ultimate end, it is simply material, dry, and anti-devotional in character. But when it aims at bhakti as the final goal, it is sadhana bhakti, or devotional knowledge in the incipient stage, beginning stage. Some think that devotion is void of eternal existence and is nothing but a pure form of duty or the Kaivalya state of knowledge. Such theory is untenable. Keen observers of truth, T capital truth, hold that the relishing or tasting faculty of unadulterated self is known as Kevala, Akinchana, or single-minded devotion, otherwise known as divine love, and the discriminative faculty of the pure self is knowledge. So this relish is the point. Again, keen observers of truth hold that the relishing or tasting faculty of unadulterated self, means pure self, is known as Kevala, Akinchana, or single-minded devotion, otherwise known as divine love. And the discriminative faculty of the pure self is knowledge. Relish-less or tasteless discussion often ends in disastrous impersonal monism or nirvana, self-annihilation. A jiva is by nature prone to relish or taste divine love, which he is deprived of on account of his exclusive absorption in fruitless polemic discussion. When knowledge aims at loving devotion, it is bhakti, with a mixture of jnana, and it turns into Kevala Bhakti, or single-minded devotion, when it gives up all tendency of dry polemic discussion out of intense love for the blessed Lord Shri Krishna. The existence of a jiva is eternal, and hence his reasoning faculty to attain pure knowledge is also eternal. A jiva has twofold functions, viz., function in his free state, which is free from all conditional attributes and is known as nirguna, beyond this triguna, and function in his fallen state, which appertains to his physical and mental body. A jiva's bondage is entirely due to his egotism or misidentification of his real self with his temporal tabernacle, and to his I-ness and my-ness with his corporeal frame and those relating to it. I am body, this is mine, and these are mine. Gurudev also used this word, tabernacle. Two tabernacles, one gross, one subtle. Misidentification of real self. The action of a fallen soul mainly concerns with his fleshy frame, but the service of those who are free or freed from the bondage of Maya by the grace of the Lord is purely transcendental. A pure soul always renders unalloyed service to the Blessed Lord, while the non-devotional action of a fallen soul with his body and mind is karma which binds him. Action becomes unconditioned or unbound when it is done by a jiva free from all desires of elevation and liberation. The action of the jiva is bound to be fruitive in his conditioned state. So only this one part I will read. Loving service is the eternal and natural function of the unalloyed entity of the jiva, which lies dormant in him, even in his fallen state, on account of his backwardness to the service of the Supreme Lord Shri Krishna. We become a verse, but still that loving service function is dormant in us. It is not destroyed, but covered or blocked or by association with the sadhus, saintly personages, when that eccentricity or backwardness, we turn our back to Krishna, is howled up, his devotional aptitude, which was so long lying dormant in him, awakens and becomes intense when it is known as sadhana bhakti. This sadhana bhakti, though tinged with karma, again turns into kevala bhakti or single-minded unmixed devotion when there arises in the heart an intense devotional love for the Supreme Lord Shri Krishna and a corresponding detachment from all worldly affairs or enjoyments. So tomorrow we will further read this introduction. This is by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, about distinction between karma, jnana and bhakti, and two kinds of devotion. then different chapters of Gita, Sharanagati, all this. So, tomorrow. Or because it is Ekadashi today, so for a few more minutes we can read this one, then next page will come. On Ekadashi, Gurudev said, no need to see the watch. Only 2 minutes, 2-3 minutes there. The activity of mankind is not mechanical or without knowledge. Every action is attended with some knowledge of the deed and the doer. Man's reasoning faculty is not actionless. Discussion or deliberation is the life of knowledge, and that discussion is also an action. A superficial observer finds no distinction between karma and jnana. But from the philosophical point of view, the principles of karma and jnana are quite different from each other, and although the principle of devotion, bhakti, cannot be practically differentiated from karma and jnana, yet, viewed philosophically, bhakti is quite independent of karma and jnana. Unalloyed, transcendental loving service to the Supreme Lord Shri Krishna is the eternal, perfect nature of the jiva. Although it is not an easy task for a fallen soul to determine it in his conditioned state, yet it is clearly understandable and realizable by those who have acquired a firm and loyal confidence in the Supreme Lord and who discuss the principle of bhakti with a relishing temperament bereft of fruitless, controversial arguments. When one has this fortune that his Shraddha is awakened by accumulating Sukriti and getting Sadhu Sangha, then this will start to reveal, and then it will become fully revealed, that eternal devotion. So tomorrow we will continue.